Hi, I'm KSFK. I'm going to keep this really brief. I don't know if I'm ever going to upload another gacha game video again, at least for the foreseeable future. I want to focus on other projects right now, but I have made a compilation for you to enjoy, and the compilation does feature all of my old gacha game discussion videos remastered in 1080p 60 frames per second, so I hope you enjoy it and get some good rest or whatever. Hey all, I'm KSFK. Winter and spring are, for some reason, the time a lot of mobile games start celebrating their anniversaries, and the influx of anniversary events might seem overwhelming to those of us who play multiple games, but it's always fun to celebrate the life of the games we play with our community. It got me thinking though, that for every gacha game that hits its 4th anniversary, there are many other games that don't have that privilege. Some gacha games live incredibly short lives, some of which are not even getting close to reaching that coveted 1st anniversary, let alone any others. So I decided to research it a little, and I've got a handful of gacha games that lived very short lifespans. But first, what is a short lifespan? What constitutes a short lifespan? Does the amount of gacha games that last under a year, which are, quite frankly, not interesting to talk about, I decided to lower the bar just a little bit, and will generally limit the video to games that had an end of service within 18 months of launching. I have one exception that lasted less than 2 years, but that's mostly included in this video because there probably isn't any other chance I'll be able to talk about it. As is the case with any online project, there's always a chance that once the service ends, there's a dedicated community waiting to put all of their efforts into something like a private server. In the spirit of that, I'll make sure to mention any preservation projects I'm directly aware of, and any preservation projects by fans of these games will be featured in the pinned comment of the video. Lastly, make sure to do that funny thing that the kids call liking and subscribing if you like this content, because I'm really close to 1,000 subscribers. With that said, let's get on with the video. Love Live is a gigantinormous, humongorific media franchise, the proportions of which seem to expand by the minute. I've been a fan of it since around 2014 when it was just Muse, and I feel like every time I blink nowadays there's a completely new set of girls that I have to pay attention to. Who the fuck is this? I don't know if I can do this. I don't like attention, I need to take cover. Currently Love Live sports 2 gacha games, at least 2, I don't even know anymore. Skull Idol Festival and Skull Idol Festival All-Stars. But did you know that before Love Live had 2 gacha games, it had 2 gacha games? What could you even base another Love Live gacha game on? Well, this. I know what you're thinking, Kiss as a Tsum Tsum? Well, you're wrong, it's not a Tsum Tsum, it's a Nestleberry and they're different! They might literally be the same thing, I don't know. Puchiguru Love Live was a puzzle game released by Puchiguru in April of 2018. The game is based on these Nestleberry things. Basically a bunch of Nestleberry, which you'll hear on be called Nestles, fall to the bottom of this little tub and you have to tap 2 or more adjacent Nestles that match in character in order to clear them off the board and gain score. You get more points and spawn explosive stars the more of the same girl you have chained up together, and if you know what you're doing you can get some ridiculous chains which end up resulting in showtime where you can rack up even more score. Like most mobile puzzle games, it gives you an objective rather than having you play endlessly, and a time limit to achieve that objective in. For instance, the game might want you to use a character skill 3 times in order to complete the stage, or to tap a star when it appears 5 times. Characters are, of course, summoned for the game's gacha, which provides you nestles for either coins or these things. The gacha also only allows solo pulls unless you pull for the card gacha, which seemed to be more about a couple of skills than characters. All in all, the game didn't really have that much content and served as more of a casual time waster, so Love Live game fans weren't super interested in it, which led to its eventual closure at the end of May of 2019, giving the game a lifespan of only 13 months as the Love Live series moved on to its next big hitter. And of course, Puchiguru moved on to Sinnoh Alice, which existed before this game, but you know, the global release was in 2020, so whatever. As a puzzle game, I think it's pretty fun, but it's not exactly an experience that hasn't been done already, as it's pretty much blatantly a clone of Disney's Tsum Tsum. And the idea of a puzzle game with character skills at the centre of focus lives on through Agretsuko: The Short Timer Strikes Back, a match-free puzzle game based on the Netflix show Agretsuko. That being said, if you're actively interested in playing Puchiguru Live Live, there's a pretty strong preservation project called the Puchiguru Rescue Project run by the folks at r/Puchiguru, say that 3 times fast, as well as a Discord server. While I haven't really touched the Discord server, I can vouch for the quality of the preservation project, as it's the version of the game I used to capture the footage for this video. While some things such as in-app purchases are missing, it's a very important time capsule into a time where Live Live was in a very important transitional period between its early days and its all-star era. If you're interested in trying out the project, I've, of course, left a link to this preservation's official website in the pinned comment. Speaking of Love Live's old era, there exists a very strange moment in Love Live's history where KLUB Global was using the gameplay style of Love Live's Skull Idol Festival and completely cloning it to make a game that could better communicate the game style to the youth of the West. But to do something like that, they needed an IP from the West that aligned with Love Live. High school, musical performances, idol clubs. Oh, I know! Sonic Underground! Glee! It was Glee. They made a Glee gacha game.
Yeah, Glee.
Glee Forever, stylized with an exclamation mark, not unlike a certain other game, was a music rhythm game released by KLUB Global on July 31st in Canada and Australia, and September 8th of that same year to the rest of the patient Gleeks in the world. In case you're too young to know what Glee is, an opening statement that makes me feel old as shit, it was a TV show that ran from 2009 to 2015, about a high school glee club, aka a singing club. In its 6-year run, it had a massive cultural impact that came from praise of the subversion of high school archetypes, diversity, and the handling of social issues. Said cultural impact also resulted in a massive fandom following known as Gleeks, to the point where some high schools genuinely started running Glee clubs en masse, including my high school. I may have been a member of the Glee club, which explains a lot. Anyway, me being able to completely recite the soundtrack of Rent at 13 years old aside, Glee Forever is exactly what I said it was earlier. More or less a thinly veiled way to push the appeal of Love Live's gameplay to a Western audience of mostly Tumblr hipsters circa 2015. You play songs, all of which are licensed and would get me a boo-boo from YouTube if I turned on the audio for this footage, using a team of characters you've assembled from the 2009 hit TV show Glee. How do you get these? Well, by scouting them, of course. The gameplay doesn't really have a lot to talk about if you've played Love Live's Skull Idol Festival, you probably get the idea. However, there are some minor differences to SIF, such as being limited to 8 characters in a team, and a big thing in the middle called a Glee bonus, which is kinda like a fever time mechanic, I guess? Of course, a lot of the changes made between the two games seem to be ones that made the game significantly less grindy than its weeaboo cousin, either streamlining, simplifying, or entirely removing certain features in the transition from SIF. Idolization was automatic, there was a shop to buy cards in, and the song HP and Kizuna bars were completely gone from the final game. On the flip side, they added 3 more attributes than Love Live had, though cards and songs encompass up to 3 rather than just 1. I do find it funny that Love Live's at the time petty mechanic, blue scouting tickets, were still in Glee Forever though, and they renamed them to Hall Passes. So if you're a player of a game with absolutely no petty mechanic, just remember Glee's gacha game had one before yours did. For some catastrophic astronomical reason, probably the lack of interest in the series after its wrap up in 2015, or perhaps a lack of license renewal, Glee Forever services were terminated on May 31st, 2016, meaning that for most players in the world, the game only enjoyed a lifespan of 8 months and 23 days. It's probably one of the only times I can think of that a gacha game played with an American license of this caliber as its headliner, and was perhaps a notable example of an early push to put gacha games into some kind of mainstream Western fandom, and with its demise, so too died as a Super Hulock gacha game. Nah, I'm fucking with you. Could you imagine a Super Hulock gacha game? To this day, Glee Forever remains a very notably peculiar part of gacha gaming Gleek history that only gets brought up again occasionally by someone saying, "Hey, remember that really weird Love Live game where it was just Glee?" It's just crazy to think that even now that something like that existed, even if it was gone sooner than it came. Man, not even close to a year. Nowhere near 525,600 minutes, 525,000 moments so dear. How do you measure a year? Taking a step away from all of these licensed gacha games, I wanted to take a moment to talk about one that isn't based on a licensed property, sort of. Kimi Hero, full name Kimi Hero Taiketsu Go Toji Kaijin Hen, also known as You Are Hero, full name You Are the Hero Showdown Local Monsters Edition, is a hero-themed, high school-themed RPG that was released by SNK on August 7th, 2017. The game extensively features character designs and art by Falcon, the SNK artist best known for his work in the King of Fighters series. His art style is really neat because it has this sort of emphasis on street fashion, muscle, and exaggerated body parts, but never in a way that made the body parts look wrong. Anyway, you can probably tell by the way that I'm speaking that I'm a fan of this artist's style. So am I heartbroken to think that this game is gone? Absolutely, but it goes way deeper than that. While this game featured a pretty wide cast of original characters, high schoolers who developed supernatural powers after a heroic meteor crashed onto the planet, the game also boasts a ridiculously large crossover roster in standard SNK fashion of characters from Samurai Shodown, Fatal Fury, King of Fighters, and many other SNK franchises. As well as fucking Cheetan, the mascot of a Japanese city who was cut off by said city after they went rogue on social media, beefed with comedian John Oliver, and then later attempted to enlist Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to pressure John Oliver after they tweeted about how much they wanted to quote unquote give John Oliver a chance to explode through a table. Yeah, that thing. That existed. Where were we? Kimi, wow, whatever. Yeah, back to that, I guess. So the game's main allure by that point was its huge collectible roster of SNK characters, the diversity of which would make the King of Fighters All-Star blush. No hard feelings, KLUB, I love you, baby. Mwah. But evidently that wasn't enough to keep players coming, as eventually events died down and the game was shut down by July 31st of 2019, just 1 week before its second anniversary. Yes, it barely qualifies, but it's such an interesting game that I don't think I'd ever get the chance to talk about again, and the reason this segment is so short is because there's still so much of this game that I have yet to learn. No preservation project that I know of exists, and there's barely any evidence on the western side of the web that this game so much as even existed. It's sad to see a game where, despite its promise, it doesn't quite make it to more than 2 years in the market, and even when it's gone, there's absolutely nothing left of it. The same thing happened with Glee Forever. The game only exists as a memory, and is completely inaccessible nowadays. I know. It only barely qualifies for this video, but despite having a marginally longer lifespan than the other games I have lined up on this list, I still wanted to talk about it, because the idea of preserving these games means a lot, even if that game didn't last a significantly short time. Of course, SNK has moved on to greener pastures, and has a healthy player base for King of Fighters All-Star, their collaboration game with Netmarble, and they seem to have largely learned from their mistakes they might have made during the Kimi Hero era. But when eventually King of Fighters All-Star also ends its services a couple years down the line, only having just been saved by a license renewal recently, will that game also shut down for good with no attempt at preservation? I certainly hope not. Lastly, to lighten the mood a bit, I wanted to talk about a game that was so unabashedly cloned from another game. Such a shallow attempt at reselling the same idea that didn't work the first time, and hopefully an example of why conveying your license well for your spin-off's gameplay is so important. Hand in hand with Glee, there was another franchise that took Tumblr fandom by storm in the early 2010s, perhaps the whole internet. In Japan, it was just a franchise reaching out to other territories, but in the West, it was the start of a massive cultural impact that changed the anime aesthetic landscape in ways that you probably haven't even noticed. Danganronpa. I remember the initial big boom of Danganronpa back in 2013, the Ishimondo fanbase, the epic mafia lobbies, the chats they roleplay chat rooms, the way we could only enjoy the game for either a PSP fan translation, a terrible anime adaptation, or the Let's Play on Something Awful posted by Oren Ronin. I remember that for some reason, perhaps due to all of the unregistered users logging in to read the Let's Play, they had this weird censorship system in place for unregistered users where certain swear words were replaced with equivalent cutesy words. What a gently caress was that poo-poo about anyway? Eventually they started paywalling the forum, and I vividly recall a Tumblr blog made specifically to circumvent this, which became a rather vintage meme in the Danganronpa community that kids these days will never understand you and your Kokichi Omas and your Kaede's lies. Ho ho. Anyway, but yes, before Danganronpa was making a weird gacha game parody mode in V3's post-game, it had an actual gacha game released by Spike Chunsoft on mobile devices. January 7th, 2015 on iOS, and April 17th of the same year on Android, Danganronpa Unlimited Battle. Even just the name of the game sets off red flags to me. The subtitle has absolutely nothing to do with the aesthetic or themes of Danganronpa, but let's suspend our disbelief for a moment to think to ourselves for a second. What do you think a Danganronpa gacha game would play like? Maybe a frantic tap-based action game like the real games with a sense of rhythm, logic and flow? Maybe a puzzle game to help you feel immersed in some sort of mystery that the game provides? Well, you're both wrong. Check this out. Boom, Go-Go's Crazy Bones, put Makoto Naegi in it, ship it, done deal! The game's idea is that you take some Danganronpa 1 and 2 characters and you slingshot them at these enemies, resulting in a sort of pinball ricochet effect that deals damage to enemies. Simplicity aside, this is just a type of game that doesn't really make a lot of sense to market to Danganronpa fans outside of the fact that, well, it's Danganronpa. And I suppose I have to give it some slack because, much like Puchiguru Love Live, it was from a very important transitional period of the series, and it's probably the result of Spike Chunsoft experimenting and seeing if the series could branch out at all. There isn't really much to say about it, and the illustrations are largely nothing to write home about, being based on sprites, official art, anime styles, or whatever the fuck this is. While they eventually succeeded with Ultra Despair Girls, it's no surprise that Danganronpa Unlimited Battle didn't work out, and the game closed 9 months after its Android release on November 13th, 2015. In its post-mortem, you can clearly see that this just didn't seem like a Danganronpa game. You're probably thinking that this could never have been reskinned from some other gacha game that nobody would have noticed, right? But there's no way it could be like that, right? There's no way it could be that conspicuous, right? Well, it was. Danganronpa Unlimited Battle is, plainly put, a blatant Danganronpa reskin of Kenka Bancho Crash Battle, another gacha game released by Chunsoft which opened on October 20th of 2014. The game's idea is that you take some Kenka Bancho characters and you slingshot them at these enemies, resulting in a sort of pinball ricochet effect that deals damage to the enemies. What, did you expect me to explain it differently? They're identical games. As a matter of fact, thanks to the cutting room floor, we can see that Danganronpa Unlimited Battle was such a blatant asset rip that Kenka Bancho Crash Battle's assets are still in the game files. And with the fact that Chunsoft decided to release the exact same game twice on mobile devices, you must be able to infer that, well, Kenka Bancho did well, right? It must have made a splash for them to decide to chase that high with another one of their franchises, right? March 31st, 2015. 5 months. The game completely shut down before its reskinned sibling Danganronpa Unlimited Battle even released on Android. Chunsoft being an unsuccessful gacha game, and then when they were planning on shutting that game down, they literally just remade it again, but this time with Danganronpa characters. It's the fucking ninja bread man of mobile games, and coming from a company that puts out consistent bangers of games like Chunsoft, it just leaves me in disbelief. I don't even know what else there is to say about this game. Every time I think about Danganronpa Unlimited Battle, I'm completely incredulous to the fact that this is even a series of events, not by a small cheeky dev looking to cash in, but by the developer of some of the biggest visual novels like Somnium Fells and Zero Escape, and licensed titles of the modern era like the Mystery Dungeon games and Jump Force. This is a real thing that happened! Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on you also, but this time there's Danganronpa characters. So there's 4, or I guess 5? Games that lived incredibly short lives. If nothing else, this video should serve to share the importance of game preservation no matter how good or bad that game is. I was only able to find one of these preservation projects, but if you know of any others, let me know about them and I'll put them in the pinned comment. Additionally, there is a backlog of other games with short lifespans that I'd like the opportunity to talk about if there's any maintained interest in that. But if you know any more of these, then please let me know about them. If you enjoyed this retrospective, please like the video and subscribe if you want to see more content. I know I asked this at the start of the video as well, but it's been a long one, I may as well shoot my shot. Also, please make sure to say hi to me on Twitter at FalcoLambda for video updates, or through my Discord server, the KLUB. Thanks for watching, please be excellent to each other and party on, dudes. Hi everyone, I'm Kaius. Gacha games tend to have rosters of characters. Huge rosters of characters. Let one of these bastards roam free on Google Play for a year or two, and there's a guarantee that they'll come up with more characters than you can shake a stick at. Seriously, these character lists can sometimes go into the hundreds, with granblue fantasy sitting at over 500 and Emblem Heroes sitting at 637, a number that will likely become dated not only by the time this video goes online, but probably before I've even finished writing this script, as noted by the fact that I wrote this script before the spring banner came out. So, why is it that of all of these characters, I'm only managing to summon one of these bitches over and over and over again? Yeah, that's right, I wrote an entire script about dupes. Fucking crazy, right? Duplicates, longhand for dupes, shorthand for my worst fucking nightmare, is a term used in gacha gaming to describe a copy of a character a player already owns. Though since you likely already know what the word duplicate means in real life, I'm not going to baby you, so let's move on. Duplicates, depending on who you ask, are either a blessing in disguise or a curse in plain sight, and a dichotomy of those two things lies in an ideology that's quite difficult to pinpoint or explain, but I'm going to try my best to simplify it. In Parappa the Rapper 2, yes, this is an explanation and not a tangent, bear with me, I promise this will make sense. Parappa the Rapper, just so you know, opens the game by lamenting that he has won a 100-year supply of noodle products, and while at first he likes it, it later starts to get to the point where he doesn't even want to think about noodles. After all, too much of a single thing and people will get tired of it eventually, even if they directly benefit from it or like it at first. Of course this logic doesn't apply to everyone who hates dupes, but people eventually get tired of duplicate characters, and it's exacerbated by the fact that honestly, even the developers don't know what they're doing with these things. The Parappa tangent is a microcosm of the inherent problem that duplicates face that developers still can't seem to fix, and to better illustrate where this problem lies, I'm going to talk a little bit about how some gacha games I've played handle duplicates. In Fire Emblem Heroes, no doubt the game that you're all subscribed for, every character starts with a plus mark value of 0. This can go up to plus 10, but the only way to raise this by even 1 is to get a duplicate copy of the character on equal or higher rarity and merge it with the original, which means you have to collect the same character 11 times. And as hard of a trek that is for most heroes in the game, there isn't much of an incentive to keep going with dupes after the unit has reached the cap, unless you for some reason really like SP, but your character's probably already maxed out if you're using them enough to justify a +10 in the first place. You could also build another +10, but if you do that, you either really like the character in question, or you're weird and possibly dangerous. This is obviously not a new incentive to build duplicates as Live Live, and I'm sure plenty of other games did it first, with Live Live's Collab Festival completely changing the art of the card if you merge 2 copies of it together. Additionally, Fire Emblem Heroes has skill inheritance, a system that lets you remove 1 unit from your barracks in order to give a handful of their skills to another unit you own. This is arguably the best thing to do with dupes, but as I said at the start of this video, Fire Emblem Heroes has new units constantly funneling into the game's gacha like sweaty gamer bros to a Best Buy PS5 restock, and so too with them comes the game's power creep, so I don't think that Ogma's Defiant Attack Free is going to be of use anytime soon. The worst thing is, I could go on about how the dupe system in Fire Emblem Heroes isn't good, but regarding postmark merges and skill inheritance, they're actually more versatile than most mobile games are willing to offer. In fact, a bunch of games don't even let you use the duplicates at all and automatically transfer them into some currency or power up for you. And this is inarguably worse because man, fuck taking power and agency away from the player. It also makes duplicate characters unrewarding, especially if they go to a character that you don't even use, and therefore it makes you feel like you essentially summoned nothing. Hosamo is easily the worst offender of this to me, as pools of duplicate characters you don't use are quite literally worthless, as you don't get any sort of currency, and Hosamo has no sparking system to speak of, so you're not working towards anything by pulling consecutively either. The only meaningful progression it gives is toward that specific card never appearing again in the gacha, since capped cards can't be summoned, and that's one hell of an upside to work towards, as you need to summon these units up to 100 times for this to even happen. It's ridiculous. Many other games like Dragalia Lost and granblue Fantasy offer some kind of currency in exchange for duplicates you can't keep, and while I don't exactly like the small stipends of a random currency, it's at least better than giving the player no agency with items that they in some cases literally spent people money to get, so whatever. However, the problem with duplicates isn't a byproduct of a fundamentally broken system. The concept can be fixed, and in fact Fae comes remarkably close to a solution that allows duplicate heroes to maintain some sense of value even after their quote-unquote shelf life, and despite the shortcomings of the system I mentioned earlier. The most important part to stress is that Fae, in my opinion, has the execution near perfect, but instead of focusing more on immediate value in duplicates, the spotlight should be put on longer lasting value. In other words, creating a distinction between a duplicate and a bad drop. What Fae provides is a duplicate, and what Hosamo provides is a bad drop. I know I said the distinction is created here, but it's more or less created in a meta way. In actuality, Fae treats duplicates and quote-unquote bad drops the same way, it just lets you rework the bad drops into something you're satisfied with. In fact, even on a technical standpoint, duplicates in Fae rarely happen to begin with, as Fae summoning content actually comes with subtle differences. Back in July, I summoned for Swimsuit Byleth, and over the course of that 10-minute video, I ended up getting 3 copies in a staggeringly short time. Notice that I didn't say duplicate. That's because even though I summoned the same unit 3 times, not a single one of them was identical. The first one I got had an attack stat marked in blue and a speed stat marked in red. The second one I got had an HP stat marked in blue and a speed stat marked in red. And the third had an attack stat marked in blue and a defense stat marked in red. These are what Fae calls traits, though they're more commonly referred to in the fanbase as an IV. Every time you summon or otherwise obtain a unit, it will appear as a certain stat spread picked randomly from a set of 21 with all combinations between an asset, a stat to favour, and a flaw, a stat to decrease in favour of that asset, though sometimes you can summon a character with no asset or flaw at all. Which means that technically when one unit is added to the game, they actually add one base character of 21 subtle variations, which furthermore means that when I said Fae had 637 units in the game, I really technically meant 13,377? And that's a non-exhaustive number, not even counting the bunny banner with the shitty fucking now that was announced. I can't believe they did my girl like that. The same character is the same character, just like noodles are still noodles, but maybe Parappa would have hated the noodles slightly less if they gave him 21 flavours to choose from. One of the solutions to the duplicate problem is to make duplicates on a technical standpoint statistically unlikely. Generating content in subtly different ways also gives more areas to explore for each unique character and leads to more interesting ways to build them in theory. And since the subtle variations are still the same character, you can merge them, saving players potential frustration, because could you fucking imagine if I had to summon the exact same swimsuit Byleth out of 21 different versions when there's a measly 3% chance to even get her at all? I totally understand that this isn't a feasible solution for every gacha game, because some just don't let you keep the duplicates, and while I personally think that the games that do that without providing any alternative are stupid and aren't invited to my birthday party, that emphasises the importance of having a permanent currency or a way to obtain a currency with dupes. I should circle back into Faye and talk about hero feathers, but frankly they don't do enough. They're working as intended, sure, but they still don't do enough! And if not that, then you're probably thinking of granblue cerulean stones, and while it's a good point to make, it's not exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking more along the lines of something immediate. This is, of course, the part of the video where I bootlick the King of Fighters All-Star because Jesus fucking Christ, check this shit out. Got a dupe, you get souls and a memory. Souls can be used to raise the level cap of that character. Don't want them? Turn them into soul dust. Look at all this shit soul dust can buy. And memories can be used to awaken fully leveled characters and level them up even more, and also give them crazy tools that are super fun to use. Don't want to awaken up there you have? You can turn them into a blank memory instead. The best part, if you stack these blank memories for a certain rarity, you can up the rarity they're valid for, meaning that you can get these for purple borders even just farming off of 3 stars of the same element. Whew. It's a really subtle and neat way to incentivize customization of the fighters that you like to use, and since KF All-Star encourages you pretty much using any and all fighters for its endgame content, having these options is ridiculously important to the overall game feel. No matter how low the rarity of the dupe you get, even if it's not the dupe of the character you want, every single pool has you actively working towards a goal that you've set. It's one of those rare Netmarble W's that KOF All-Star is always providing. Marvel Judge Fight can fuck off though. So these are 2 random examples of how duplicates are handled kind of well in games that I picked out of a hat. Not really, I love these games, I love them. Duplicates are impossible to avoid, but the best way to make them less unbearable is to give them depth and variety. But you also need to give the duplicates width, which is to say that duplicates should be usable even by someone who doesn't want them. I believe that it's not possible to have a perfect system, but in many games the heaviness of the cons vastly outweighs the pros. Customizability and variety seem to be the strongest ways to approach this dilemma in a way that makes the pros outnumber the cons, at least in a vacuum. There are probably more things I could suggest to improve the systems implemented in these games, but I've gone on long enough making weird tangents, and I'm making a deliberate effort to keep this video essay short. While this video probably won't change your thoughts on getting dupes, I at least hope I managed to share something new with you or give you some things to start thinking about regarding the subject. And yes, getting dupes sometimes can be cool. I would know because I literally pop off every time I get a Haida dupe. Yes! Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Oh my god, he's fucking perfect. Oh my god, I literally, you guys do not fucking understand the serotonin I get when I look at this man. Yes! Oh my god, I'm here, let's go, let's go, let's go. Hey everyone, this is Kaius, and this is the part of the video where the video's over, but I keep on talking on the video, even though it's kind of after the video, but it's still the video. You just watched my dupes video. The word video sounds weird now. I know it was kind of short, probably didn't make sense, but the reason I made this was to make sure I could get a gacha game video essay out before my sparking video, which is taking longer than I anticipated, and I'll probably have it out by late April to mid-May at this point. I picked this topic because it was an easy one to research, but not a topic that a lot of people, including mobile game development experts, have really taken the time to talk about. And if people are interested in a full-on deep dive like the short lifespans video I did before and the sparking video I'll be releasing in the coming weeks, I'd be more than happy to double down and make a sort of sequel video on this. But if you liked the video, please be sure to like it and subscribe to my channel for more mobile gaming content like this. I know you're probably tired of hearing every single YouTuber ever say stuff like this, but it's very validating, and seeing the funny number in my name goes up, well, it brings me serotonin, honey. Also be sure to follow my Twitter at FalcoLambda and check out my Discord, the KS Club, for more frequent video updates because, well, let's be real, that community tab's fun, but YouTube's algorithm probably isn't showing my posts to many of you. What a fun website. But yeah, I'll leave you to it, and I don't know if this video even had any nutritional value, but fuck it, most of what I do is shitposts anyway, so I don't know, be excellent to each other and, wear a fucking mask, Jesus. Infinitude. It's a concept that no one truly has, but one that everybody wants. Infinite wealth, infinite wisdom, infinite chocolate, and infinite Marvel vs. Capcom's. happily Easter. In the world of gaming, people will try to find a way to get an unlimited amount of infinite something for purposes like competition, speedrunning, or just casual quality of life, and gacha games are of course no exception. Every so often you'll hear of a glitch to get an infinite version of some kind of currency. In Emblem Heroes, there's a pretty well documented instance of getting infinite SP without spending stamina, which maybe I'll cover that in a video someday. However, try as one might, there isn't an infinite glitch for the most premium of premium currencies, since in most cases the premium currency is completely server-side, meaning that in order for a glitch or exploit like this to exist, players need to find some loophole or perhaps an issue that the devs don't know about or have very little interest in solving. This is a hypothetical that's nearly impossible to find a solution to, and so exploits like this have pretty much never been found, and no committing credit card fraud for permagems does not fucking count. Though in Heroes, there's one example I can think of. I know I just said it's not possible, but sometimes I like to lie on purpose. It's true though, there is a way to get an infinite amount of orbs, as long as you're an Android player from Japan who can time travel to June of 2018, which is when our story begins. June 4th, 2018. Google Play and Intelligent Systems collaborate for a 7-Eleven exclusive deal regarding Google Play cards. This isn't really a new thing because Nintendo collaborates with 7-Eleven in Japan basically all the time. While this collaboration was active, people who shopped at 7-Eleven and bought a Google Play card would also receive a free promotional code for bonus orbs proportionate to the amount of money that they were spending on the gift card. So the promotion begins and people start buying these cards. All is well, at least until something unprecedented happened. You see, most promo codes are, in layman's terms, self-destructive. Basically, when a coupon or promotional code is redeemed by someone, the promo code stops working entirely so that no one else can redeem it and nothing else can happen. This isn't what was happening. Around 10 days after the deal started, people who bought these special orb packs noticed that they were now able to multiply these orbs, which basically meant that they could get hundreds of thousands of orbs for free. While I don't know how this glitch took place, many people did, some of which finding out by accident, so it must have been pretty innocuous. What ensued was many players who felt like taking advantage of the exploit getting the orb count of their dreams as long as said number was divisible from 5, 10 or 27. And I feel like I heard something about somebody using this exploit to get loads of plus 10 5-star units for free, but I can't find anything about this taking place and the language barrier is making this topic difficult to research, so please bear with me. But of course, there was a crisis on infinite orbs, and eventually Intelligent Systems found out and gave players an ultimatum, sending those players a notice that, in case you can't read Japanese, or barricade,
luckily I can read barricade,
basically says this: don't collect the orbs before we retrieve them, or risk going into negative orbs and getting that ass banned. And you might notice that this is a pretty familiar message if you've been involved with gacha game, air quotes, discourse, because Genshin Impact sent players a pretty similar notice when they banned players for committing felonies. The fallout of this situation was unique. One thing I neglected to mention is that when this bug started taking effect, players started contacting Intelligent Systems to let them know about this bug, and the response Intelligent Systems gave at the time was that they literally didn't even know this was happening in the first place. We don't have shit to do with this, go ask Google. And Google said, we don't have shit to do with this, go ask Intelligent Systems, resulting in a back and forth between Intelligent Systems and Google, ending in neither party really taking the fall or any kind of responsibility being given for this. And while I wish that I could give a satisfying conclusion to this video, it really did just end there, and the issue as we know it fell into obscurity. Google and Intelligent Systems' partnership remained strong though, with the same deal being provided in America through a partnership with GameStop literally 2 weeks after this debacle took place, sans the account ruining bug of course. And if you're good with Japanese, then Japanese VTuber G-Mane has a video detailing his experiences with the bug, which I'll link in the description, as his video was incredibly paramount to helping me dig deeper into this story. And if you like this short retelling, let me know, be it in the comments, on my Twitter page, or through the KLUB Discord server, links in the description. And if you're feeling extra spicy and you're not subscribed already, which is a lot of you by the way, you can like and subscribe if you want. Of course you don't have to, but you know the option's there, and it would really mean a lot. Well, until next time, be excellent to each other, and of course party on dudes. Hi guys, I'm Kaius with a K. Fun fact, it's Kaius, not Kaius, you say it with a K. Anyway, hello! So I've gotten this rather unique reputation in the VTuber community these past few months that I'm oddly proud of having. You see, I tell stupid facts every time a new banner comes out, and people seem to love it, which is great because my personality requires me to retain completely useless information and spew it out at any given moment. I don't know why, I've just always done this. So this has given me a really good opportunity to just spew Fire Emblem Heroes facts at you, and you know, sometimes people just like to have Fire Emblem Heroes facts spewed on them, isn't it everyone's dream? So I've got some facts lined up for you that are actually dumb and useless, and if you say them at Thanksgiving dinner, people are probably going to look at you funny. Let's go. If there's one thing Fire Emblem Heroes players love, it's patterns. They love BHBs, they love Grand Hero battles, they probably love fucking plaid, bro. But one pattern that sticks out above the rest is the Bound Hero battle pattern from 2020. Basically what this pattern was every time Faye released a calendar, there would be a Bound Hero battle there, and people would actually be able to tell what banner is coming next because of it, because the new Heroes banner was on the same calendar. I guess Intelligent Systems noticed this and decided that people weren't allowed to have fun speculating anymore, so they kinda got rid of the pattern, is what I would say if I were lying, because it actually still exists. It just doesn't exist in a useful way. See, they moved the Bound Hero battles a month ahead. So now they happen way after their banner, but they are still happening in banner order, so that's a thing, right? Cool. Here's another weird banner fact. In Book 4 and Book 5, we've actually had a really similar banner pattern, and it actually goes really weird and super deep and rabbit hole-y if you actually look into it. So for Book 4, we had a Thracia banner, then a Holy War banner, then a Blazing Blade banner, and then a Free Houses banner. And in Book 5, we had a Thracia banner, and then a Holy War banner, and then a Free Houses banner, and then a Blazing Blade banner. I actually ignored TMS because it's not a Book 4 banner, it's a paralogue. But that's besides the point. One thing you're probably noticing is that Blazing Blade and Free Houses were swapped. And, yep, they were. And because of this, something really peculiar happened with the Free Houses banners. They both were announced on March 2nd of their respective years, meaning they were announced exactly a year apart. And that's not all, you may have noticed that these were also the debut banners for Lysithea and Marianne, the winners of their respective CYLs. So this means that two banners in the same month of different years in a row were both announced on the night of March 2nd and were the debut banners of female members of the Golden Deer House who won CYL. Stop! Isn't that the weirdest thing? Isn't that so fucked up? Here's another similarly weird piece of trivia. Did you know that Zealot is coming? You may have noticed that he's a cavalry axe unit, and that seems to be becoming a pattern with the Seastow Tempest Trials units lately. Honestly, it kind of feels like cavalry axe units are getting oversaturated. Green axe calves. And in the context of F2P units at least, it's oversaturated. I know, there's like 4 of them in total. But there's actually a method to the madness. You see, these axe calves all have something in common, and it's their release date. Yup, January, March, and May. We've gotten an axe calf Tempest Trials Plus unit every odd month of the year so far. I guess you could say it's a pretty odd distinction for these units to have. Okay, no more patterns. Society has progressed past the need for patterns. Show of hands. How many of you own Bunny Lucina? Oh, okay, quite a fair amount. So keep your hand up if you've listened to all of her backlines. A little less, but this is about what I expected. And now I want you to keep your hand up if you've heard this line in your barracks.
Let's go hop into a garden and see what's blooming.
Let it be known that whoever still has their hand up is a fucking liar. As it turns out, Spring Lucina actually has a voice line that was never properly implemented. You can actually hear this for yourself, but you can't hear it in game as it's only able to be heard in her unit trailer. The craziest thing is, she's not even the only year 1 seasonal to have this oddity. Bridal Cordelia and Bridal Sida also have lines that just don't play in game and were only in their trailers. The early trailers are full of oddities like this. Examples include showing units at lower rarities than they should feasibly be summonable at, showing units just getting attacked and not doing anything, or in Nino's case, dying. Speaking of voice lines, I bet you probably maybe already possibly didn't, but definitely did know that Larcy has had a specific voice line change numerous times over the past year. It actually started sounding like this.
I'm Larcy. Ulster is my twin brother. Nice to meet you.
In this line, Larcy mentions Ulster as her twin brother, and this part of the line was completely edited out in an update made in August.
I'm Larcy. Nice to meet you.
Then, nearly a year after she was initially released, the line was changed again, this time with a completely new recording where she mentions her twin brother by the name of Skahak instead.
I'm Larse. Skahak is my twin brother. Nice to meet you.
I'm pretty sure they did this because they were kind of having an identity crisis over the Yggdrasil units and Yggdrasil setting stuff at the time, like the names and stuff, but I'm glad Skahak finally figured himself out in the end. Go off, king. So the music in FE Heroes is very particular, and you've probably noticed that a lot of the GBA songs have a distinctly different master to them compared to the GBA version. This is because these masters are actually the original music files being put into FE Heroes without needing to worry about things like the Game Boy Advance's primitive audio compression. A funny oddity for me that occurs as a result of this though is with the Blazing Blade attacking music known as Strike. See, this song has a very particular part of it that shouldn't actually be possible in a Game Boy Advance, more specifically at the very beginning. This song uses a real-life string not featured on the GBA sound font for its first chords. It sounds pretty standard in FE7 as the GBA constantly has some form of white noise playing when audio is coming from the system, which actually masks the white noise that plays in the audio sample used in the beginning of the song. But because FE Heroes has an uncompressed version of the song, you can actually still hear the white noise for the specific audio sample if you listen closely. YouTube may have killed that with its audio compression or something, I don't know, YouTube audio compression fucking sucks, but I promise it is there. Your homepage is the home to your home, wow, oh my god. Your homepage is the home to many of your favourite units and one of your friends, but have you ever seen a friend who has a 1-star Ana show up? This is actually a thing that can happen, despite Ana not even being available at 1 star to begin with. And you might not even know the reason for this happening, especially since you can't actually check her stats if she shows up like this. The reason is actually pretty simple though. When the game gets ready to add a new banner to the game with new heroes, they actually release the update on Google Play and the App Store hours in advance. This means that certain players have access to certain new content and features before other players do, and this includes weapon refines. If the player sets a newly refined character as their main hero, it fails some sort of checksum on an unupdated version of the app and sends a weird failsafe Ana to your friends list instead. Riveting. Some heroes have had their art be updated over the years, and you may have heard of a few of these instances. Summer Lilina's art change was actually discussed publicly on the Fire Emblem Heroes Twitter accounts, and Summer Gaius' bowstring is now present on his art when it wasn't before. Rebecca found dead in Miami. Summer Awakening Tiki's was also changed, but it was actually changed before she was even publicly released, something about an ass crack, I don't know. Here's an art change that wasn't Summer related though. Back when Linus first released, he actually had different art entirely. In fact, there was such a monumental difference made to his art that I'm surprised no one talks about this anymore. If you look closely at the art when he was first released into the game, you can see a single green dot next to his strap. Wow. Speaking of characters being off model, I'm likely about to ruin Reese for you forever. Did you know that in his illustrations, Reese is drawn with a closed purple hooded coat, pale shirt and brown boots? That's pretty obvious, right? But look at his sprite. What do you see? Black shoes, an open hoodless coat, and a black hooded shirt underneath. Unforgivable. Someone had to be fired for that blunder. So that's all I've got for you today. If you liked this video, please consider subscribing and sharing it with your friends for more. You do not have to do these things, but the offer is there and it would make me very happy as I am kind of low on serotonin lately. Additionally, you can consider leaving me a message on my Discord server, the KLUB, or my Twitter at FalcoLambda, or you know, in the comments below if you've got any facts you want to share. Did you know that my videos have an end slate at the end? Yeah, it's a weird fact, right? It looks like this. Hi guys, I'm Kaius with a K. Not everybody realises it, but a game's soundtrack is arguably among the most important parts of its presentation. The soundtrack is one of the things that sticks with players when they leave your game behind, and there are many games that are remembered fondly for their soundtracks, in some cases being praised for their soundtrack even when the rest of the game is pretty bad. Games like Zelda The Wand of Gamelon and Sonic 06 are to this day praised for their soundtracks despite the games having a terrible everything else. And if you think the song in the background is catchy right now, well, I've got some terrible news about the game it comes from. Arknights, the focal point of this video, is, contrary to my last statement, not a bad game. It being a content-rich title with extremely competent gameplay, a sleek design with a wonderful character art, great music, a story that makes my friends cry, and Spot. I like Spawn. If you like tower defense, I definitely recommend it, and since the designs are pretty varied, I'd also recommend it, seeing as everyone will eventually find their perfect anime girl, anime guy, or anime beefy tiger man. I won't judge. However, despite my praises, there will always be people who say otherwise, because living creatures have these crazy things called opinions, which tend to be different and kaleidoscopic, meaning that not everyone has to listen to what the Fire Emblem Heroes menu's sucks person has to say, because maybe they like wrestling with an unoptimal and nonsensical allies menu in their free time, and that's perfectly okay. But sometimes a negative opinion in bad faith can be taken to its logical extreme. What if you hated a product so much that you literally went out of your way to infiltrate the creative team of that product just so you could attempt to sabotage it? It sounds like a fringe case, but this is actually what happened, and it's a pretty recent story, all things considered. On November 15th of 2020, Hypergraph, the developers of Arknights, launched Contingency Contract Season 3. If you don't know what Contingency Contract is, it's basically a game mode that allows you to impose challenging restrictions on yourself, like less resources, less stats, or more stats on enemies. That stuff, you know, kind of like a contingency contract in real life. But that's not important right now, it doesn't even matter right now. All you need to know is that this was the third one, or well, the fourth one, since evidently they started numbering them at 0. The next thing you need to know is that Contingency Contract, much like most of Arknights, has this thing called a quote-unquote banger soundtrack. Which basically means that, okay, you know what good music is, I'm not going to keep repeating this bit, but the songs are an important part here, as was stated at the beginning of the video. The music is the focal point of this video. Season 3 had 2 new songs, both composed by Mi Shen, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, a composer who never composed for the game before but was scouted by Hypergraph in May after Mi Shen contacted them expressing their love for the game and their desire to compose for it in some form. Of course, some trial work was done, and that's how shit usually goes with game composers, and eventually Mi Shen passed with flying colours, being finally able to provide some pieces for the game. These pieces, 2 in quantity and high in quality, are as you probably expected, the ditty duo that descended to the dance hall for Contingency Contract Season 3 and sound as follows. And people loved it. Until they didn't. Well, they still did. But the truth is, this delicious duo of ditties was decidedly determined to be the plagiarism. I couldn't think of a D word, I'm sorry. Yes, indeed, these 2 now tarnished tracks are a victim of plagiarism, something that VGM enthusiasts such as myself wince at the thought of. The first song I played was accused of ripping excessively from Taishi's Strayer, and the second was accused of ripping from Calling by Rejection. Neither of these songs are going to be played in this video because I don't want to catch that heat. Before we continue, I want to emphasize my use of excessively, as sampling is a pretty common practice in music, and as someone who used to work on video game tribute albums, I can say that there's a degree of fair use and fair game in sampling and derivative music, though it of course depends on the person whose work you're using. If people say this song sounds like blank instead of this part of this song reminds me of blank, then there's probably something wrong. That is all I've got to say, let's move on. The result? Well, these songs wouldn't be released on the official soundtrack, and they were eventually removed from the game outright to my knowledge. Of course, Hypergraph has also apologised for the whole ordeal, which is a bit of a refreshing thing to hear since I'm used to telling stories where the developers don't take fucking responsibility for shit. That is of course the look of the situation from an outsider, and as an outsider it would end there, but as is the case with most topics I cover, there's a little more to the situation than is actively being given, so let's make like the mystery team and take off the mask. First of all, the situation was seemingly just a mishap. Hypergraph did contribute by providing some references, though they did clarify the song had to be completely original. But still, what came out was a pair of songs that weren't thoroughly background checked and cases of plagiarism that Hypergraph at first passed off as just a young artist who made some fucky wuckies. But Chinese forum goers saw things for what they really were, as they knew better than anyone that Mi Shen was telling a plain lie all along. 19-year-old Mi Shen wasn't a big fan of Arknights, in fact quite the opposite. Mi Shen hated Arknights so much that it was unreal, and he would frequently tell his fans how much he hated the game with quotes like this. Of course I can't 100% confirm these are legit since they came from his ex-fans and I can't speak Chinese, and also this is on a Reddit post, so there. But I mean, it's on the screen, look, visuals, well, anyway. So why did he work for a company whose work he despised from top to bottom? Well, espionage. I guess that's the best way to put it. If you read the video's title, you probably know where this is going. Plagiarism was the goal. Yup. His hatred was so unreal that he plagiarized the music on purpose in order to stir shit up within the fanbase and bring bad publicity to the company, which is, in my opinion, definitely normal person behaviour and not fucked up at all. Mishen sabotaged his own career in an attempt to cause a full-on controversy with Arknights, because controversies like that definitely end in the companies being stoned to death and closing down, which we can clearly see as Toei Animation and Bandai Namco absolutely 100% went bankrupt after Kenji Yamamoto was caught plagiarizing music pieces for Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball related products. I'm being sarcastic, by the way. And well, let's be real here, the Arknights fandom is very loud and bombastic about their enjoyment of the product, so I guess that would garner some distaste, but Jesus Christ, even if you don't like the game, you don't need to ruin the livelihood of hundreds of people over it. This isn't an opinion piece, but I would be super surprised if I ever hear of Mishen getting work ever again, at least anytime soon. He's pretty young, so he does have time to grow up a bit and reflect. He's even younger than me, which is kind of fucked up when you think about it. I'm 22 years old and what do I have to show for it? A fucking Orson paparazzi shot and a gatekeeper discourse video? This story was pretty intense and this video is pretty long for a story, so I guess I'll end it for moral. It's okay to not like things, as long as you're not a diabolical cunt about it. If you like this video or have any questions about it, you can hit me up in the comments on Twitter or on the KS Club Discord server, links to those are in the description. The Discord server's been blowing up a bit lately and it's all thanks to your support. Seriously. You guys are awesome. Also, if you like these retellings, which, holy shit, thank you, you'll be glad to know that I've amassed a large backlog of these shorter videos, and you also have the option of subscribing and ringing the bell if you want to be notified when they come out, though you of course don't have to do that, and I appreciate you for even just watching this far into the video. This has been Case, the person who's always wanted to say that before signing off. Be excellent to each other and party on. Hi guys, I'm K. Everyone loves a good crossover. Crossovers drive to bring the best in each franchise. Sometimes you want to see two settings you like collide. Maybe you want to see two super powerful characters go at it, or perhaps you're just looking for character chemistry between two series that you have a lot of love for. Sometimes, however, they add a fucking tank to BB tag. When a mobile game does a collab, it usually ends up gaining a lot of traction. Some games collaborate with other properties at such a frankly alarming rate that they end up becoming the main thing the game is known for, and other times, games just keep doing collabs when I just want them to add new characters from the original property of the game. Please KOF All-Star, just add T-Zoc already. I don't care about Nanatsu no Taizai, please God stop. However, while these events are traditionally celebrated and hyped to high hell, there are of course a fair share of horror stories. If you thought the Dragalia Lost Mega Man event was bad, you're going to want to have to sit down for these stories. Yeah, stories, plural, because this is actually the first in a duology of videos exploring some of the most catastrophic, crummy crossovers and collabs that I've probably ever heard of. This is the first of these two, and I highly recommend you watch the second one if that's out already, and if it isn't, you know what to do. Without further ado though, let's talk about the first topic. The Genshin Impact collab, so popular, it had to be cancelled. If you've been living under a rock and don't know what Genshin Impact is, you sweet summer child, I'm about to ruin your day. Genshin Impact is an open world action RPG with gacha elements released by miHoYo in 2020. miHoYo is also known for releasing Honkai Impact Third. I think I found a favourite word. Genshin is additionally and probably less flatteringly known for one of the biggest and loudest social media fan bases in ever really, particularly one vocal about Zhongli's ass. It's not that big, the only cake he's serving is flatbread. Also, they have these Klee Oomphy gifs which I'll be liberally using throughout the video because well, just look at them. By the way, did you know that Genshin Impact's sister game, Honkai Impact Third, was once the motivation of a real life assassination plot, which I'll get to this one someday, don't you worry. Back to Genshin though, it's kind of a smash hit. The game is literally gigantic and the proportions of it are constantly expanding by the minute, which is a far cry from its initial reaction of Nintendo fanboys destroying their PS4s because the game looked a little too much like their beloved Breath of the Wild. I played it for a while, but I eventually fell off since I'm not huge on open world adventure games, but I have a lot of respect for the product because holy shit, It's hard to make a game in the first place, but making one that blows up to the degree Genshin did is borderline fucking impossible. So good on you, miHoYo, I guess. In light of that, please forgive me if I get any small details about the game wrong, since it's been months since I played it. I've been trying to keep up, but it's hard. I might reinstall it to try and get some B-roll footage, but you're probably going to be seeing more Klee gifs anyway, so... If something gets big, it will get a crossover. It's kind of like the Murphy's Law of media. So Genshin has had a collab or two already since it launched, but the collab we're talking about today is the collab that every Chinese social game will inevitably have. We need to adjust to the wabi-sabi way of life of accepting impermanence. All cherry blossoms will fall, all fireworks will explode, and all Chinese social games will eventually collaborate with KFC. Yes, Kentucky Fried Chicken. But how do you collaborate with KFC for a video game, you ask? I chuckle. First of all, you partner with a restaurant like KFC by rewarding players in-game for going to said restaurant. Bring in some special goodies in-game as well as some physical rewards for going to the restaurant to encourage people to eat at a restaurant when they could be gaming. Second of all, stop asking stupid fucking questions. KFC actually seems to have quite the appetite for collaborations like this, at least in China, having done this in the past with Identity V, Girls Frontline, and Arknights. Look, I put Weedy on the high ground. Just so we're clear, the items being offered to the players who went to Kentucky Fried Chicken, not actually Kentucky, that's a long walk from Hangzhou, are a glider, some stickers, a chicken bucket with Diluc on it. Oh, also, Noelle and Diluc cardboard standees, they weren't supposed to be given away, but that didn't actually stop people, so. To get these desirable goodies, players of Genshin Impact would need to go to KFC and just order food. But there was one other set of limited rewards that required you to say but one thing at the counter. Meet in another world, enjoy delicious food. Fast food employees do not get paid enough to hear their customers say things like this. Anyway, they got a pen badge. That's cool, right? The event ran through much of 2021 in many places throughout China, and the moment it started, the oomphies descended upon those many locations. These locations were being absolutely swarmed. Because of that, one would think that it's safe to consider this event a success, right? A banger post for the oomphies, right? Well yeah, but it was quite literally too much of a success for its own good. For one, there was very little wiggle room to move around in these restaurants, especially in the larger cities, and as stated earlier, the standees of Diluc and Noelle were being swiped from the stores and taken home, though that's surprisingly standard for cardboard standees at events like this. The real kicker with this though is the current circumstances around which this event was being held. See, when people went to KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken, there was another KFC they had to be wary of. The killer fucking, coronavirus. This event was held in the middle of a global panorama pandemonium, and as some of you may know, that thing spreads faster indoors than it does outdoors, and as previously stated, the KFCs in larger cities were hella fucking crammed, meaning that the Genshin Impact KFC collab was a literal public health concern. No, I'm not kidding. Although restrictions had relaxed, there was still a Pandora going on. Yes, I'm avoiding saying the words directly, YouTube's demonetization fucking sucks. Even though restrictions were being lifted, KFC still wasn't ready to have a capacity consisting of this many people. The collaboration was actually hitting the point where it was violating the disease prevention measures in Shanghai and Hangzhou. It was that bad. As a result, KFC decided that the best way to handle this was to take it out back and put it out of its misery. Between KFC initially posting about the collaboration on Weibo and then posting about the cancellation of the event, there was about 1 day. All of this most likely transpired in 1 day. And that's where I would end things, but as is the pattern with me writing script, Genshin actually brought the collaboration event to Western audiences in July while the script was still being written because Kaius doesn't deserve anything fucking nice. I don't even know the specifics of that one yet, but I assume it's just in-game because I can't exactly imagine Western KFC wanting to allow people to swarm their locations after the last event. I think that's all I've got then. Since this is a recent occurrence, there may very well be developments in the future, though I doubt I'm going to make another video of it. If you like this greasy, deep-fried story, consider liking and leaving a comment, and maybe subscribing to this They Them if you're feeling like a Kentucky Fried cool person. Also, for video updates, particularly if you're waiting for the companion piece to this video, why not become an oomphy on Twitter at FalcoLambda, or join my Discord server, the KLUB, where you can be notified the moment a video goes up. You don't have to do any of these things, but it's a good way to directly support me if that's what you want to do. Until my next video, be excellent to each other and party on. Also, Xunyan is the best Genshin character. Hi guys, I'm Kaius. Last night Fire Emblem Heroes unveiled their 5th gimmick hero type, the Ascended Hero. Conceptually, this is a pretty neat addition, but the announcement was met with a very polarizing response. Ascendant Florets seemingly addressed a well-known issue of the game called stat creep, but didn't really fix it at all. People have been wanting to hear my hot take about power creep, particularly regarding Fire Emblem Heroes, for a while now, so I figured now would be a good time to come out of hibernation and give you the TLDR of my opinion before I actually make a full video on this topic, maybe like 8 months down the line from now. Fire Emblem Heroes' addressing of power creep as a whole has probably been the worst display of game balance in any mobile game I've ever played. Ironically, back in 2017 when Cavline was all the rage, a thing in fate history that definitely never ever happened again, game directors Kohei Maeda and Shingo Matsushita had this to say. If we see a situation that appears to be unbalanced, we want to address that by looking at ways to make other heroes more appealing to use. They would later go on to say, of course power creep is something we're concerned about, but we're taking action to prevent that from happening. I think you'll see some of that in future updates. Now, one thing to note about these statements is neither of them particularly aged all that well. The final statement here refers to the eventual addition of the weapon refinery. Honestly though, weapon refines aren't a very good or sustainable way to maintain the balance of a game, but I don't think I'm ready for that talk. All I'll say is that if you're asking for re-refines to be a thing, weapon refines have fundamentally failed. I will say that the weapon refinery, along with some stuff in other gacha games, caused a really weird misconception about how balancing these games is allowed to be done. I've seen a lot of people say that simply buffing characters directly can't be used as a counteraction to power creep because of some weird stipulation with Japanese gambling laws, but I actually haven't found anything, even from legal analysts who have covered the subject, that actually so much as implies this. In fact, King of Fighters All-Star, Granblue Fantasy, and even Nintendo's own Dragalia Lost have released game-wide balance patches that improve units, though I guess since skill effects were all that these patches really concerned, maybe there is some legal stipulation that I just don't know about, but I doubt that immensely since Puzzle and Dragons, the grandfather of gacha, has actually made some changes to the raw stats of characters. But it's weird that the legal ramifications of something like this are still in a weird grey area where we don't actually have a clear answer. Puzzle and Dragons shows that stat creep is not a problem that's very difficult to approach. Buffing units at their core is generally fine, and I have a pretty good feeling that a vast majority of players wouldn't mind a game balance patch for heroes that redistributes the stat lines of old units. But I guess we'll just have to get used to Fire Emblem Heroes adding gimmicks for game balance like this that don't actually fix the ever-widening gap between older and newer units. I wish I could be happier about Second Boon because it's kinda huge, but it just adds more information overload on top of the already monumental mountain of information that Fate currently has to offer to new players before promptly chasing them away for it. I'm still going to hold out hope that 6.0 actually does something to address this because Book 5 has been one of the worst times to be a fan of Fire Emblem Heroes in my opinion, and also a game balance enjoyer. Thanks for hearing my opinion out on this. I'm sorry I've been gone for like 2 months. My next video will be out soon and I'll be appearing on some other content creators' channels before the end of the year. Have a good one. Hi everyone, I'm Kaius. Also, please don't mind that my voice might sound a little different. I got my booster shot yesterday and let's just say Pfizer got hands. Anyway, Fire Emblem Heroes has once again made a bad decision that I'm forced to come out of my hiatus, which is almost over by the way, I'll talk about that some other time, to make a video explaining how I feel and hopefully put things into perspective to help people who may be confused better understand what's going on and what to do with this information. So for those who don't know what's going down, first of all, I'm jealous. Secondly, last night Fire Emblem Heroes announced the new legendary hero, Legendary Byleth. 2. It seems like people were pretty okay with Byleth, if not ambivalent because oh my god, more free houses, but what happened after the banner reveal is really what got people talking, because after the trailer itself, it seems they snuck in the news that starting from this banner, you can now spark on legendary or mythic heroes banners. as long as you're subscribed to Fay Pass. It's worth noting that while not revealed in the trailer itself, the Twitter account also went forward stating that this feature would also be available for Fay Pass users for special heroes and double special heroes banners going forward as well. But not revivals or special heroes banners from the past because, well, fuck you. Fay Pass was already not well taken to by the player base at large, and the initial announcement of it resulted in a lot of backlash and, of course, the creation of the one-part gimmick account, other parts Seminole Freya simping simulator account, cheaper than a year of Fay Pass, which sort of acts as a criticism on the investment of a year of Fay Pass while posting some banger memes on the side. I think it's needless to say that given the already controversial Fay Pass is the epicenter of this topic, people really didn't take to this one with a lot of fanfare or glee, especially seeing as most people have been asking for this feature for everyone to use for a very long time now, making this a sort of monkey's paw situation. This is undoubtedly the worst reaction I have ever seen to anything Fay related since Book 5 started, which is saying a lot because the past 12 months have brought their fair share of controversial components and maligned mechanics. My opinion on Fay Pass's current state leaves me on the fence, my favourite seat. While pretty standard quality of life features like auto-repeat that should be free and in certain games, like King of Fighters All-Star for example, are free, I really didn't mind it being featured on a subscription service. This mostly stems from my belief that most things Fay Pass provided were providing efficiency rather than making things objectively better. Besides Splendid Attire, which is its own shebang really, Resplendent Elliowood, DNI. While quality of life really shouldn't be behind a paywall, in regards to a subscription service I'm mostly fine with it because subscription services primarily exist to give users willing to spend the extra quality of life, which makes the app or platform inherently more comfortable to use, like YouTube Premium allowing videos to continue to play when the app is suspended, or Twitter Blue having an undo button. Just press Ctrl Z! However, there's a thin line that subscription services tend to not cross, and that lies more in, how do I put this, improving the inherent focal feature or mechanic of an application. The reason behind this is probably to do with consumer goodwill, though I would argue no one likes Twitter in the first place. Speaking of inherent focal features or mechanics, I stated in a certain video on a certain fellow video essayist's channel, which I will link in the cards, that I firmly believe Fire Emblem Heroes' summoning is not a feature of the game, but rather its central mechanic. In that aspect, I think allowing people to pay to improve their experience over others is just kind of not fair. While a little luxury on top of the quality of life is fine, for some reason this exclusive spark just rubs me the wrong way. Okay, so the waters are really muddied here, so I totally understand if people think me quote-unquote being fine with one thing and quote-unquote not being fine with another seems kind of hypocritical in a vacuum. Basically, to me, this is the Heroes equivalent of if a fighting game paywalled something players really need in order to feel like the game better, like frame data or something. Oh fucking come on, Tekken! Ultimately, I think the evaluation of fairness is very much a grey area where one's mileage is bound to vary, and I think this situation is a nuanced one where there's no incorrect way to react. However you feel about the current developments in Fay Pass is, for all intents and purposes, an objectively reasonable way to feel as long as you're not going out of your way to harass people. Please don't fucking do that! For example, I see a lot of people vowing to unsubscribe from Fay Pass, and I think that's valid. It's your money. However, I'm not necessarily sure the vote of your wallets thing will really change IS's mind at this point. This is very much a tinfoil hat thing I'm about to get into, but I am almost fully convinced the reason this mechanical change exists at all is specifically because Fay Pass is not selling as intended. It may be selling well, but in a genre that thrives off of engagement, it's not keeping those players engaged, namely the ones who buy for one Resplendent hero and then dip immediately. In other words, I don't believe this change was made because Intelligent Systems wants people to subscribe to Fay Pass, but rather because it wants people to stay subscribed to Fay Pass. When you follow this narrative, more of the sudden decisions relating to Fay Pass start to make more sense, namely the addition of loyalty perks on top of the already existing perks. From the way I see it, Fay Pass is struggling to keep users consistently engaged, and the addition of exclusive sparks is a way to cultivate that engagement and keep it going even after people might have already technically lost interest because Resplendent S or whatever isn't complementary with the initial purchase anymore. In that sense, that's why I don't really believe the vote for your wallets route will have any effect here, because this feature existing kind of implies that they're already actively in need of more reasons to have people staying subscribed. and as such I don't plan on unsubbing from Fae Pass, and I don't think players who want to keep Fae Pass should feel compelled to unsubscribe over this, just as long as they're willing to voice their discontent. Unsubbing out of protest is a valid way of protesting, don't get me wrong, but Intelligent Systems' response to a profit drop generally won't be, oh, we need to add less things to Fae Pass. If anything, it would have, and may well currently be having, the opposite effect to entice people to come back, or they would just sell more crazy ARP packs with lavish 5-star units for $75 or what have you. However, that's not me saying stay subscribed because it's lose-lose, because it's your goddamn money, do what you want with it. Plus, I don't really think it's a lose-lose situation despite what I may be implying. The best thing you can do to voice your discontent is to send feedback. Now, the pessimist here would say that IS won't listen to anyone who criticises their decision, but they've done so in the past, and even if they don't, we're still making our discontent widely known by greatly congesting the feedback form responses. Anyway, I've drawn on for long enough. I kinda did not expect to talk about it for this long, and now I'm worried that I won't even get this video out on time. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the Fae Pass spark. If you don't agree with me, that's cool I guess, just don't be a dick about it. And if you like what I do, please check out my Twitter and Discord, and maybe subscribe to my channel if you want. Haha! Happy holidays, be excellent to each other.